What's going on, guys? It's been a minute, hasn't it? Well, it's been more than a minute. It's been like a couple, 100 minutes. It's been about a month. I wonder how long exactly that is. Let me look it up really quick. How many minutes in a month? It's been 43,800 minutes. That's a lot of minutes. I wanted to just kind of start by saying that I'm sorry for kind of like the large gap in between the last video and this one. I think just for the sake of transparency, I had been working on my videos and had really poured my entire self into them, not just for the sake of the project, but also because I've been going through a breakup, and something that I noticed was that I started kind of using these videos as sort of like a positive outlet, a distraction, just to kind of keep my mind off of things. And I noticed that once I was at the tail end of it and the work got picked up, everything just hit me, all at once. And it kind of became apparent to me that that I had not that I hadn't taken the time to process the relationship, or the breakup rather. And well, that sucked, man. It sucked, and it took it's kind of taken this entire time, and for me to kind of work through things slowly, and then for different kind of things to happen within that. And I'm kind of still feeling kind of crappy, to be honest. I don't know if you can maybe tell by my less than chipper demeanor, but your boy's still kind of in I'm not out of the woods yet. I'm kind of still in the storm a little, although definitely getting better. But yeah, man, it's hard not to get choked up just talking about it now, but I feel, I guess, ashamed that I let it get the better of me, and that I wasn't strong enough to just kind of keep pushing. But at the time, it felt like it was enough to just be making my work, to be getting everything ready for the show, and then transition into exploring new things for myself, and using my art as like a creative outlet, and not worrying about making content out of it, which I don't actually view these videos as content. This is like documentation. But the pressure of like posting on Instagram, things like that, I didn't want to have any of that for a little bit, and I needed to not have that for a little bit. And so I took a bit of time to just kind of work on some new stuff, explore some new directions, and just kind of get myself like at least at water level, and not necessarily above water, certainly not below, but at the very least just kind of at level. And yeah, man, I'm doing better, better by the day, and I'm very fortunate for that. But admittedly, I'm still feeling all of the contradictory emotions kind of at the same time. I feel simultaneously very grateful for the relationship. I also feel bitter about it. I feel relieved, but then I also feel a sense of longing. I feel free, but I also feel in some ways limited. And I'm sure that in time it'll kind of reveal itself to be a sort of middle of all of those things, and that's okay. And I fully look forward to and anticipate for that day to come. But more than anything, man, I want to, I guess, be transparent about this so that I can have it on record for when I get older. I want it to be something that I can look back on and be like, look, man, that was like such a hard time in your life, and you fucking got through it, dude. So yeah, man, we're getting through it, bro. Like, fuck that. We're not gonna be sad today. But yeah, dude. So the cool thing, man, about all of this shit is that, like, my work is just getting better, like, this will all be worth it if, like, my work just gets a little bit better, and I already see that happening. It's like that's and it's just showed me that, like, in reality, this is the only thing that matters to me in the whole world is my work, like what I'm put on this earth to do. And I feel ashamed that, like, I let something like a breakup kind of get in between my mission, between me and my mission, and I'll never let that happen again, and I don't mean that in like some bitter way that, I'm not going to be some like Pat Bateman Sigma freaking weirdo, it just means that I'm going to be a lot more whatever, that doesn't matter. What matters right now is that my work is getting better. I am making new work. I've been kind of making some new work, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it, and it might not be getting like the biggest, best reaction, like social media wise. It's not like doing crazy numbers. Like, some of it is, kind of going under the radar, completely missed. But to me, it feels like some of my best work. I've been making these studies that are based on kind of text messages between two parties, we'll just put it that way. And of course, there's a lot of autobiographical elements to it, but I think there's kind of this really interesting mystery about who the two people are that are communicating, because it could be me and somebody else. It could be two other people. They could be a form of prayer, even, maybe like me and God, or something like that, but there's this thing about them that I'm just digging so deeply and so, like, truthfully about what I'm going through, and extrapolating kind of like these single little snippets of like text, of like conversation, and just finding that when I put them out there for the people that are watching, like, they seem to be pretty universal, it seems to be kind of like these universal sentiments. And so in some way, it's like I'm still working with memes, but like language as a meme, like these kind of like, instead of like relatable images, it's like these words, these phrases that we've all uttered, like these sentiments that we've all felt that are deeply human. And I feel like that's kind of like a big turn for me away from like so much irony that I've always dealt with in my work, where everything was kind of very tongue-in-cheek, and there's still a big degree of that here because it's just part of who I am, but there's more so a sense of vulnerability, a sense of like, yeah, just a sense of vulnerability, man, a real, like, reaching into myself and pulling out little strings of, pulling out these little tethers, or pulling out these, just, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just snippets, it's language, it's communication, and that's felt really good, man, and I'm excited for this work, and I'm excited for you to see it. And you know, so for today's video, I've got the last painting that I worked on for the show, as well as the collection process of the work. So if you've stuck around this long, I really appreciate it, and you know, sorry for being a freaking crybaby. I'm trying to be as like vulnerable, open, and honest as I can on this channel, primarily for my own sake, you know, for the sake of my family and myself, for the sake of any other artist who might be like going through something that sucks and feels like you're never gonna do it, you're never gonna make it through. I'm doing it for you, broette. And you know, I just want to show you that it's okay to like take the time that you need away from your work. It's okay to lean into it in private. It's okay to keep your followers waiting. You know, that's all okay, man, because at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself, and you've got to be in a good position to create, which I feel like now I am getting there, despite the difficulties that have been happening in between. So without further ado, let us get into today's video. So nothing has changed, bros. We're starting with the background. I kind of started leaning further and further into kind of like the washy quality of these backgrounds, and so the brush kind of got a little bit larger, as you can see here, and it got a little more loose, and I feel like this kind of quality just sort of aids like the vastness of the field, you know, the field that they're on. And I know I've mentioned that before, but this is one of the things, you know, that iteration kind of helps with, is that you can really double down on ideas and really solidify them through the act of repetition. And so once I finished with that, it was onto the shadows, of course. And this one was almost, I mean, with this whole series, most of the shadows have almost been like all pretty much straight black out of the tube. And for this one, it was no different, but I always go ahead and I kind of tint the black paint just a little bit with something, depending on what the kind of local color you know, field is that I'm working with, or what the temperature is like in the reference photo. And so for these, I used a little bit of like a phthalo blue, and then a tiny bit of, I think, a lemon yellow, and that just kind of really deepened it. It deepened the black, you know, it kind of brought it a little bit more into the green, but it just made it so much more vibrant and made it really feel like it was a part of the picture plane, which is always a nice, exciting thing to do. And then from there, you know, we had all of our colors pre-mixed, as we've done in the past, and I'm just applying them here from dark to light. I'm just kind of getting it going and starting, you know, all over. I'm not really focusing on any one specific limb and bringing it to a finish. I'm just working the entire picture plane and working that all at once. And again, with this one, there was kind of like that same problem that I always kind of encounter, where it's like you want to, you know, you don't understand like what freaking colors you're mixing, dude. It's like, why am I mixing orange for this flesh tone? You know, why does everything look so orange? And it's not really till you start to apply them that you start to see, okay, that's kind of like the larger narrative here. You know, there's a lot of orange because it's very warm or whatever, you know, what have you. But one thing I might advise you to do if you're pre-mixing flesh tones and all of that is don't judge it. Don't judge the color that you've mixed kind of in isolation. You know, it's important to do that kind of like in the as a whole, once you've applied everything. Because when you look at the piece now, I mean, as a whole, it looks so good when compared to like the individual little pieces of you know, information that I had on there, little bits of color that were just mixed independently, and you had an orange and then like a slightly darker orange, and then a slightly lighter orange, and it just feels like, oh man, this guy is just going to look like a piece of fruit, you know? Another thing that I did with this one that I really liked was I incorporated again the cat. And so I generated it with, the old AI, and then I brought it in, and I added the kind of little drop shadow or the cast shadow from it on my own, just kind of basically just like duplicated the actual image and then did like a color overlay in Photoshop, and then used the same color as I was using for the background or for the shadow shapes. And then once I got that done, once the cat was in place, I used my big brush, and that's kind of already passed, but I used it to blur it a bit. And of course I'll show you an image when it's done. I really only had a kind of a crappy iPhone photo, but here we go. And then here we've got the wonderful folks from Mike's Shipping Crate getting all the work together. And so I had it all kind of laid out, and then one by one I was signing each piece, and we were just kind of doing a very rough kind of photo sesh just to make sure that everything was there for the shipper. And so we're stacking the works here, and they're kind of, I'm signing them, and they're photographing them and then restacking them in a different pile there. But that's all of the work, man, like that we've been working on for all these days, and it's so rewarding to finally see it kind of all together. And it's just it's a very, very humbling and very exciting kind of experience. And then from here we started to put it all back on the plastic, and of course it's not going to get shipped out like this. It's going to travel a very short distance to their place, where they're going to then wrap each piece individually and then ship them out, but they just do such a good job of getting everything prepped. And we're in here in the gallery at the apartment complex Space C4 here at the South Side Living and Maker Spaces in San Antonio, Texas, which is a great place to live. And I feel so like also incredibly lucky that we have like a big gallery space that I could lay out this work on. And but yeah, man, so I was also thinking about what's next. What's happening after we're done with this series. And so I think that whenever I've got a big project coming up, whether it be a show or like a residency or some kind of presentation that I have to do, I'm gonna get into daily vlog mode, right? Which is what we've been doing for this series. In between those things, I think it's a little bit too overwhelming for me to do dailies. So I think I'm gonna do weeklies, but with a higher, maybe a slightly higher production value, if you will. So I'm gonna try to do, have more images, maybe a better kind of script. I don't know. I kind of like this pretty direct sort of like talk. I do enjoy it, but I think that it might be worth it to do weeklies so that I can really think about what it is that I want to, make videos about. And I've got a couple of ideas already, believe it or not. One of the ideas is it would be a series called Reading Walt Morton. And that is exactly as it sounds. There's a writer that I'm a freaking really big fan of. His name is Walt Morton. I don't think he publishes any of his writings on Instagram. He just posts his paintings, and he's a phenomenal painter. But he also writes very beautifully about art and painting specifically. And I see all of his writings on Facebook. So I was thinking what I would do was just go and kind of select some of the ones that I like the most and just make some videos where I'm reading them to you guys, and obviously giving him every bit of credit that he deserves, rightfully so, and linking all of his socials and being very diligent about that. But just kind of sharing his writing because it resonates so deeply with me, I thought would be a great idea. So that's one. Another one would be just some kind of practical videos for painters. One would be like how to get and stay in a flow state, which I feel like I have a pretty good bit of stuff to say about that. Things that I've always asked myself about painting, like how long should I paint? how can I paint faster, you know, things like that. And so there's a couple of videos that kind of in that vein, you know, kind of these sort of semi-obscure questions that I kind of have always asked myself about painting, and that I think maybe other people might find good too. Also doing maybe some just some kind of like tool breakdowns, you know, the tools that I use, maybe how to clean some of the tools, comparison between airbrushes, maybe what you might like, what might be good for you, etc. Doing some comparisons between different brands of paint, you know, maybe not necessarily the brands themselves are as important, but student grade versus professional grade, linen versus canvas, things of that nature, you know, just little things that I feel like might kind of help people along. And of course, anything that you think you might want to hear about, you know, like I would love to hear from you. And so from here, I think this video is going to be the end of this first series. And I think probably what I'll go back and do is like redo all the thumbnails and kind of just give them a similar look, so that it's easily identifiable within the series. Because I was kind of being very experimental with my thumbnails along the way, just as I was with the kind of tagline, hey, you know, welcome to Work in Progress, all of that stuff. I kind of dispensed with it on this one because I'm just kind of feeling not so great, and I don't feel like being a YouTuber right now. But you know, just I feel like bringing a level of consistency to the thumbnails would be good between series, and then just kind of go ham on the weekly videos and kind of have more room for experimentation within that. So I think that's about all that I have for you guys today. I appreciate, you know, I've gotten some messages from some of you guys like on Instagram, and it's nice to hear that the videos have been missed. You know, my mom says it, but you know, you always expect mom to be supportive. And but you know, and it, not that it means any less coming from her. It's nice because she actually very much looks forward to my videos, and so that's a fun thing for me too. It's very exciting. But I've also gotten a couple messages from other people, and they're like, hey man, we missed the videos, I missed the videos, I guess I'm just gonna have to start watching them again, which is all very nice, you know, and I really appreciate it. So I've seen it, you know, and I rest assured I'm okay. I've just been kind of going through it, but it's gonna be all right. We're gonna get through it, boys. And yeah, man, you know, thank you guys for watching, man. I really appreciate it. I love you guys.